started when my ex and I split, and I had to move back into the house I swore I'd never set foot in again. I was 27, broke, jobless, and raising my son Mason on my own. He was 6 wild curls, bright eyes, and a laugh that echoed through every hallway like music I hadn't heard since I was a kid. My mom, Cynthia, said we could stay temporarily, but from the second we crossed the threshold, she looked at Mason like he was roadkill I'd dragged in. She gave us one room, the cold one in the basement, with a thin mattress and peeling paint. I thought, fine, whatever, I could handle the cold. But I didn't know she'd freeze us out in every other way too. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The first night, Mason got hungry after dinner. He'd only eaten 2 bites of the food she slopped on his plate, something gray and soggy she called leftovers. He whispered to me, "Mommy, I want cereal." I snuck into the kitchen, quietly poured a bowl, and when she caught me, she yanked the spoon out of my hand and threw it across the room. It shattered like a shot. "You think food grows on trees now that you're unemployed?" she snapped. "He already ate." I apologized. She didn't answer, just stared at Mason like she was waiting for him to cry. He didn't. I didn't know then that would be his first test. The next morning, I had to leave early for a job interview. I left Mason with her. He smiled and waved from the window while holding his little dinosaur plushie. When I came back, something felt wrong. He wasn't at the door, wasn't in the living room. I heard shuffling from the back porch. I stepped out. He was sitting on the steps outside, alone, teeth chattering, dinosaur in his lap, crumbs around his mouth. "What did you eat, baby?" He looked up and said, "Grandma gave me doggy cookies for breakfast." I blinked. "What?" He pointed to the bowl by the dog's crate. "She said it's crunchy like cereal. I just need to pretend." I didn't move, I didn't scream. I walked inside, straight to my mom, who was on the phone, laughing. "You fed him dog food?" She didn't even flinch. "He's lucky he got that. If he dies, that's one less mouth to feed, huh?" She laughed at her own words. I stood frozen, a sick, ice-cold feeling spreading through me. My mother. The woman who used to scream at me for leaving a sock on the floor, now feeding my child like he was a mutt tied to a pole. That night, I tucked Mason in with a blanket I found in a donation bin. I looked at his little cheeks, pale from the cold, the split lip he got from tripping the day before, still unwashed, the tiny holes in his socks. I didn't sleep. The next day, I left for a shift at a new job, a night janitor gig. I kissed Mason and told my mom I'd be back by 3 a.m. When I came back, I found Mason curled in a corner of the laundry room, sleeping on a pile of dirty towels. The blanket I gave him was missing. The bowl by the dog's crate was empty. I carried him to our room. He didn't wake up, just shivered. The next morning, I snapped, "Why is he in the laundry room?" "He likes it there," she said. "Don't act like you didn't grow up sleeping in worse." I didn't speak. But something inside me broke so quietly it was almost peaceful. I didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't even cry. I made him breakfast in secret using my own money, fed him in the car before I left, hid snacks in my purse. I kept him close, and I watched. And every single moment of that week, I recorded everything. Photos, timestamps, garbage bag full of chewed dog biscuits, screen grabs of Mason's texts to me from the other room, "Mommy, I'm hungry." Grandma said I was a worm. I started documenting everything, quietly, methodically, because I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to end her entire illusion of motherhood. And when I was done, I wouldn't just leave her cold. I'd leave her starving. 3 days after the dog biscuit incident, my mother installed a lock on the kitchen pantry. She didn't say a word to me about it, just smirked and tapped the key she wore around her neck. "You'll learn to be grateful," she said, sipping her black coffee. "That boy eats too much. You're raising a beggar." Mason was sitting on the floor behind me, coloring. I could see his shoulders tense. That night, I didn't feed her anger. I fed my plan. I started getting to work early, staying late, not because I loved cleaning floors or scraping gum off urinals. but because the night shift meant I had access to all the unmonitored loading docks behind the supermarket next door. One of the kind cashiers, a girl named Tasha, started leaving me extras after close. Day-old muffins, dented cans of soup, bruised bananas. I told her I had a growing boy at home. She nodded once and started doubling the bags. I would sneak the food into the basement, hide it behind the water heater. We made a game of it, Operation Secret Snack Fort. Mason giggled when I told him we were spies, collecting supplies for a rescue mission. But I wasn't joking. Every night I saw more signs, red patches on his skin from where she made him scrub the stairs, bruises on his legs she claimed came from being clumsy. Once, I found him brushing his teeth with salt because Grandma said toothpaste was a luxury. She hadn't hit him not yet, but she was starving him, humiliating him. And she was close. She never laid a hand on Mason in front of me, but one night I came home early after my manager let me go 2 hours ahead. The house was dark. Too dark. I didn't even take off my shoes. I moved quietly, heard whispering in the kitchen. I stopped when I heard Mason's voice. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'll be quiet. I won't laugh again." Then my mother's voice, sharp, mocking. "Little rats don't get to laugh. You want to laugh. Laugh at this." There was a slap, then silence. I didn't feel my body move. I was already in the kitchen. Mason's cheek was red, his eyes wide. He was sitting on the floor, and in front of him an open can of dog biscuits. Again. My mother stood above him with a wooden spoon. She didn't even pretend to be sorry. I walked up to her and said, "Touch him again, and I swear, Cynthia, you'll regret the day you ever called yourself a mother." She stepped back, startled. Don't threaten me in my house." "House?" I smiled. "You mean the one you stopped paying taxes on last year?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" That's when I knew she had no idea what I'd been doing. The past month I'd been meeting with a lawyer, quietly, carefully. With Tasha's help and the old receipts my father used to keep hidden in the attic, I found out the house had a lien on it. More than that, the ownership was never transferred fully into her name. It still belonged to my late grandmother, a woman my mother despised. And per her will, if the property ever became a hostile or unsafe environment for her direct descendants, it would default to the next of kin who submitted evidence. I had evidence. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Dozens of photos. Text messages from Mason. Audio recordings of her mocking him. That slap, I got it on my phone that night. By the time my mother realized I was serious, it was too late. But I didn't just go legal. I went emotional. I took Mason to stay with Tasha's aunt for a week, a quiet, warm woman with 2 grandkids and a home full of love. Then I came back alone. I knocked on the door. My mother opened it, looked behind me, and frowned. "Where's the mutt?" I handed her a manila envelope. "Gone, and soon you will be too." She opened the envelope and her hands started to shake. Court papers, full documentation, proof of abuse, photos of Mason sleeping in laundry piles, snapshots of the dog food. A letter from the lawyer stating I had filed for full transfer of the house under Clause 7C of the inheritance agreement citing domestic neglect, verbal abuse, and failure to provide basic shelter and food. She screamed at me, called me a traitor, a thief, a snake. I let her. Then I handed her something else. A small Ziploc bag. Inside it, the chewed-up dog biscuit from the first night. Labeled with the date. I said nothing. Just turned around. Behind me, I heard her fall to her knees. The eviction took 2 weeks. Not because of legal delays, no. My lawyer was fast and the evidence was airtight. It was because I gave them the chance to leave quietly. To pack up what little pride they had and disappear before the town could see what they were really made of. But they didn't take it. My mother clung to that rotting house like it was the last shreds of her dignity. My father, the same man who once told me Mason should learn hunger like a real man, kept muttering about betrayal and disrespect like I owed them something for the years of misery they gave me. On the final day, I arrived with the sheriff and a locksmith. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. I just stood on the porch, holding Mason's tiny hand while she screamed from the living room that she would take this whole damn house down with her. The sheriff warned her once, then twice, then she shut up and left. She didn't take much, just some trash bags and a cracked mirror. She didn't even say goodbye. As she passed me, she hissed, "You think you're better than me now?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "No, I've always been better. I was just too scared to admit it." She flinched like I slapped her. Then she walked off into nothing. I watched them disappear down the street. No car, no place to go. That should have been enough. But it wasn't. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the boy next to me, clinging to my jacket, afraid to speak above a whisper. The boy who still checked the trash can before asking for food. The boy who still believed love could be taken away like a toy. I needed to rewrite that truth. So I got to work. I didn't just renovate the house, I transformed it. Every room she used to keep dark and cold, I filled with color and light. I replaced the kitchen locks with chalkboards where Mason could write what he wanted to eat for dinner. We painted the pantry door bright yellow, his favorite, and stocked it with snacks he could reach by himself. No begging, no permission. And in the living room, right where my mother used to sit in her queen's chair, I built a reading nook, piled high with soft cushions and a little bookshelf full of superhero stories and picture books about kindness. But I wasn't done. 3 months later, I invited Tasha and her aunt and a few neighbors who'd always turned a blind eye to my parents' cruelty. I hosted a small dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta, garlic bread, and homemade lemonade. Mason wore a cape he made out of a towel. He stood at the head of the table and announced dinner like he was a royal butler. Everyone laughed. Then he sat down, took a bite of garlic bread, and for the first time in a long time he laughed so hard he snorted lemonade through his nose. No one told him to be quiet. No one called him a mutt. No one said a word except to laugh with him. I looked around that table and realized something. I hadn't just taken revenge. I had built a new legacy. Not a house stolen from the hands of monsters, but a home rebuilt from the ground up for a boy who deserved joy, not shame. For me. And that was when I knew my mother's greatest punishment wasn't the loss of a house or the eviction notice. It was knowing that her cruelty built nothing. But mine built everything